Welcome to the Paul versus Destin E3 battle to the death. Joining me until his demise is Paul Tassi. Paul, good to have
I'm
you.
here. We're back. Yes.
I thought we would
can't do a cool announcer voice like you. So
I thought we would do a fun one this episode where we talk about E3, of course, because it is coming up any day now, basically, and some of our predictions. Just a fun show where we talk about what we think is going to happen. We're going to talk about Xbox, Sony, Nintendo, and a few other specific companies that we might want to talk about. Well, people really like Xbox on this channel. So we'll start with
is that where you're getting all your followers from now?
apparently, yeah. So we'll start with Xbox up front. They are the talk of the town, and the most recent subject is about Starfield. So, what surrounding Starfield do you think we will see at E3 from Team Xbox? Go, Paul.
Okay, so the big story of today, when we're recording this, is Jason Schreier and a bunch of other journalists kind of shut down the idea that has been circulating that Starfield is going to be here by the end of this year. That always sounded kind of crazy to me, so I am not surprised to hear that. I do think this is going to be the first time they actually show something from Starfield other than literally just the title card, which is what we've had for 2 years. It's been forever.
It's a really good logo.
It's a good logo. It's a good. Is that even the real name? Is that the working title? I never quite got that, but
that's the name.
It is the name. Okay. So I guess we'll see what the game actually is. You would assume some sort of space RPG thing that's in their wheelhouse. But I would not expect I wouldn't expect a release date. I would expect a release window, maybe, which will be next year, and then it'll get delayed to 2023. And there we are.
Yeah, that sounds right. So for me, I'm going to go a little crazy right now. I'm going to say Schreier is wrong. I'm going to say Grubb is wrong. And I do think it is this year. I think Microsoft is going to surprise everybody and be like, and it's coming this winter.
Don't be like these Xbox YouTubers that are like, don't even worry about it. Like, they got
December 25th. It'll be on Christmas Day. No.
Okay. So the reason they think so is because in addition to whatever actual inside info they have, Bethesda was working on Fallout 76 for a long time, and this production didn't really start in earnest until sometime in 2019. And if this game is anything close to the scale of a normal Bethesda game, those are 5-year games usually. So even if we're at an accelerated timetable here, I mean, that's got to be, that's still barely 2 years to get that done. So that I can't see it at this point.
I don't know. I don't know why. I am still predicting this year. I know that sounds insane. I know all the data says I'm wrong, but I just feel like it would be, if it's not this year, I think it is going to be earlier next year. So Schreier's pointing to the end of next year, which would make sense. That makes absolute sense with the timetable, and logically that makes sense. So I will say I'm being absolutely illogical with my guess, right? So everything Schreier said makes absolute sense. And even Grubb sort of talked about how he's like, I was having fun with Blessings, I was meaning next year. So even he seems to be indicating that is the correct window. And
this is all because Bethesda did Fallout 4 and they announced nothing about it, and then it was out a few months later, and they did that one time, and everyone thinks it's going to happen again. And I can't see it, but I mean, I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to play it sooner rather than later, provided it's not a buggy, broken mess at launch, which is also why I don't mind waiting longer to ensure that it is not that. And this is a Bethesda game we're talking about, so bugs are kind of a given. I would just be amazed, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I would be very surprised. And I think if it's not Starfield, then I do think Xbox has surprises this year. And we'll get to that in just a second, because they've been pretty quiet about what's coming the remainder of the year. Both companies have been, actually, because we kind of have this largely ambiguous remainder of 2021. So I do think they have other things. And if it's not this year, I think Starfield is their mega hit for next year, next holiday, because this year it's going to be about Halo, right? And I think that would
and they already have Halo, so
I think it would be a good transition to talk about Halo Infinite. So call me on it, internet, when I'm wrong, and Starfield is 2023. But I'm gonna just stick with the prediction I had before all the news today, just for fun. As for Halo Infinite, let's talk about Halo Infinite. Paul, what do you think that they're going to show at E3? Oh, real quick,
I was
sorry.
waiting for your
Before we move on
what?
with
Yes.
Starfield, I have to wonder if they have like some mode or something that they could release this year to get people excited about the game, or do you think it'll just be like a trailer with gameplay? Like this is the year where they reveal that and then they announce it's coming out next year.
What mode would they really like? Starfield Battle Royale or something?
Like Doom has a creator mode, for example, in the PvP, but
Oh,
it's a single
okay.
player RPG, so I don't know. Maybe you could build.
I
Your
would be
star
surprised.
Base. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. If we're going like full Star Citizen, I would imagine it's probably going to be like trailer with gameplay. I'm hoping it's not just some CGI rendered cinematic thing. If it is that, that'll definitely mean that it is not coming for a while. But I think at this point,
actually,
yeah, people want actual gameplay, and we don't want another Cyberpunk situation either, where they kind of make something that doesn't really exist just to show something. And I'm hoping that's not what happens either. But yeah, we'll see. But yeah, Halo Infinite. Do you have any wild Halo Infinite predictions, like your wild Starfield prediction?
Okay, for Halo Infinite, here's what I think is going to happen. I think they're going to have a large presence at E3 2021, and I do think we get a multiplayer beta or an early multiplayer look much sooner than expected. I think they want to get people talking about that game, playing that game, and you know they did it back with Reach. They launched Crackdown with a demo of, I believe it was Halo Reach multiplayer, if I remember correctly. And they might do something similar where they take a part of Halo Infinite and let us get to experience that. And it's going to be free to play anyway. So that could just be the start of Halo Infinite earlier than expected. What do you think about that prediction? Do you think that's crazy?
Okay, that's more reasonable because there's at least modes there you could like reasonably say them, spinning off early. I don't think they would just be like, okay, we're releasing multiplayer in like August and like the full game's out in November. I think it would still be like a traditional kind of beta test week kind of thing. I don't think they would just do it like that. I do think we'll see a lot from it. I think they have literally no choice but to release it this fall. They can't delay it again. They had a full extra year. It would be catastrophic. So I cannot imagine that will happen. I don't know what state it will launch in. I don't know how it will be received, but I think they have been going.
I'm sorry, Paul. You said you don't think they launched this year?
Oh no. I didn't say that. I said they have to launch this year.
Okay, yes.
There's no way they don't launch this year. Because of the last delay. So they have been going really in depth with these like monthly articles about all the different aspects of the game. So it sounds to me like they're ready to show off like something very significant. I know they have learned from their last demo where whatever they show is going to be the most polished thing on the planet Earth. Like this time around, it has to be. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But that's absolutely what I'm expecting from them.
Yeah, I think they show more cutscenes that have hit their gold standard. I think they've probably watched whatever actual gameplay segments in the open world like a million times. And honestly, I think it's going to be PvP.
Does this look terrible?
Yeah. I think they're going to show PvP more than single player even, because we haven't heard a single peep about PvP. And if they get that right, or it's an exciting new mode like that we haven't played before, I think they could do a lot to garner more interest about Halo and get people talking about a flagship Xbox title beyond Starfield, which we've seen literally nothing about besides a logo and a satellite, right?
See, I guess I'm more interested in the single player stuff and the open world and things because I kind of know what to expect from like Halo multiplayer. Like I don't know what they could show me from Halo multiplayer that would just like blow me away. But if they really drill down on like what's going on with this open world, what does this mean that this is like a platform for all future Halo games? Like that's the kind of stuff I want to know about because like I haven't been like over the moon for the last 343 Halo games. Like they've been fine, but there's been nothing that to kind of recapture the Bungie days for me. So what I'm hoping to see is something like significantly kind of out of the ordinary and different. And like you could get kind of glimpses of that if you overlook the bad graphics and stuff of the original demo. I just want to see kind of like more of what they're doing with that idea, other than just like here's 8 minutes of Master Chief fighting brutes or something. Like I want them to kind of drill down into that. Whereas like them just showing like a multiplayer game or something, I don't know what would surprise me if they were doing that.
Yeah, I think of what they've showed. I don't think people have really. I think they latched so much onto the Craig thing that maybe the actual aspects of gameplay were sort of missed. Basically, it seems to me like you're going to go out into an open world. You're going to tackle one of the encampments of enemies, and then you get the narrative moments where they've sort of talked about in their blogs now, and we got a taste of that in the last trailer. And then maybe there's like a boss fight or a mid boss fight as you continue through that narrative.
That sounds like Anthem structure, weirdly. Like Anthem had that one big open world that contained all the story missions somehow. So like that would be a little odd. So I'm curious what would distinguish it from that.
Yeah, well, that's largely what they showed, right? And they have discussed. So I'm really interested in it. I'm really interested in how they're handling story this time. Because if they have a bunch of like main story quests and then vignettes about Dr. Halsey and stuff like that, I'm really, really excited to see what they do. And what they've teased this far has been really, really intriguing. What about their other... So before we get to stuff that we sort of know about already that has been announced, I want to ask you, do you think we see any new games that are teased this E3? And if so, how many?
Yeah, we have to. I mean, Microsoft's whole thing lately has been kind of big reveals and big teases and stuff. And like, even if none of the games that everyone's excited about have come out yet, necessarily, they become kind of, through their acquisitions and like deals and stuff, they have been able to announce a number of kind of blockbuster things. So I would imagine they have a few things stored. In terms of grand total, I'm not sure. I'm sure they're going to be like, we're adding 50 new games to Game Pass and then go through them all. But in terms of like major projects they're undertaking, it would be hard to know, if they're doing more than one or two. I don't know if they're going to announce some crazy studio acquisition, like they bought Konami or something. I don't know, but like that would be surprising.
Yeah, and the WB stuff that's happened over the last few days.
Yeah, that might be a little too soon to have that all be worked out in like 2 weeks or whatever it's going to be. But I mean, who knows?
Well, no, that's been going on for a year. Those negotiations.
Oh, that has. Okay, I didn't catch that.
The rumor from last year was that they fell apart around June, July. So maybe it's a little easier to make progress there. No, I think you're right because it's pretty fresh. The new acquisition.
You could buy them at fire sale prices or whatever.
I don't know about that, but because the companies that would be up for grabs are cash cows. I would be surprised. I wouldn't understand why they would get rid of them personally. Like they're clearly
they spun out the whole division, so I just don't want to like do it anymore. But like only a couple of people even would have the money to buy them in the first place. So that's a very narrow list of people there.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, did you finish your thought? I'm ready to move on to the next thing. If you are. So how many games do you think there will be that will be new that we haven't seen? 1, 0.
No,
2.
I'm gonna say like 1 or 2 big ones, and then like 7, 8, 9 smaller ones, maybe like that we haven't seen. Yeah,
I know what you mean. Yeah, so I think we see 2 to 3 new, very compelling games because you have to remember during the Bethesda acquisition, sure, they have to be working on stuff. And there are so many studios there. They're really, really ripe to be showcasing a lot of those properties. Like there's Bethesda, there's id, there's Arcane, and who knows. And then there's Microsoft Game Studios, right?
Yeah.
So I think we see 2 on the low end, 3 on the high end, things that we haven't seen before. And maybe I'm setting myself up for disappointment, but I just have a feeling the Starfield thing kind of took the wind out of my sails a little bit today, hearing that it's 2022. And then when my realistic brain actually pops on because of your points, it does seem more like 2020.
My very well argued points, yes.
Yeah, your rational brain. Then I started thinking about this stuff, and I'm just like, you know what? Before today, I would have said 2 to 3 exclusives, a whole bunch of smaller stuff, but it might have been stuff that we already saw earlier this year. Like we're definitely going to hear from Ascent. I think we hear more about Chorus, and I think we hear more about Scorn for sure. Those are those titles that are going to be coming to Xbox, but maybe aren't like AAA mega hits. So I'm talking like a Halo, maybe not quite that level, but pretty high up there level games. So like Halo, Fable, Perfect Dark. I think we get
Gear
a few.
6.
Yeah, Gears. I think we get some really, really compelling new stuff at the conference. So beyond that, there are a few properties that we do know are being developed, which include Fable, Perfect Dark, Forza. Avowed was a game that I'm really excited about. We didn't really talk about Game Pass and the rumors that Game Pass is going to be coming to Switch, especially with the epic redacted conversations between Microsoft and Nintendo that was recently revealed. So what do you think about the stuff that we already know? Do you think any of those will be a staple of the presentation?
Some of them have to be, because like this is the one thing about like you predicting new games and stuff is like they've announced so many potentially huge games that they've shown almost nothing from.
Yeah.
So I think they really are going to have to dig into at least some of those right now, given that we literally most of these games are like title cards
Yeah.
and like not even finalized titles in some cases. So they might tease some other new games with title cards, and then but they need to kind of explore the ones that are here already. I am sure Game Pass is going to be a big focus. I do not know what a big Game Pass announcement would be. I even with all the rumors and whatever, I would still be amazed if Game Pass comes to Switch. Like, how many Switch game or how many games could Switch actually play from Game Pass on on Switch hardware? I feel like
they could use the streaming option to stream games using like you can play it on your iPhone right now. So I think the Switch could handle that.
it's the Switch is powerful as an iPhone. Okay. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Just Nintendo isn't like the best at playing well with others, so I would be still somewhat surprised. I feel like people are always predicting Nintendo collaborations since the beginning of time, and like 98% of them don't pan out. But they couldn't even get Samus Aran as a Fortnite skin. I mean, come on, like this is what I mean. So I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. Well, on my end, I think Forza is a big focus. We haven't heard anything about it for a while. We know there's like technical alphas going on in the background that people could sign up for. So I think Forza is a big focus. I think I agree with you. Game Pass will also be a big focus. You hit the nail on the head there. If they announce a Nintendo partnership, that will make headlines everywhere. That would be like some sort of massive collaboration. They got something cooking with Nintendo, because we know, like, if there's court documents about their partnership, something's going on that's big between Nintendo and Microsoft, because they redacted basically an entire page about their conversations. So I'm really curious.
Believe it when I see it.
Well, it doesn't even have to be Game Pass. I'm just really curious, whatever that was. Like, what was it about those conversations that was so sensitive this close?
Cosplay, I don't know. I could be a lot of things, but.
And then I don't think we see much from Fable. Honestly,
it's pretty early, I think. Yeah.
Fable was pretty early, but a game that I do think we see more from is Perfect Dark. Microsoft Game Studios has been working on that. That was officially revealed last year, I want to say. And I do think we see more about Perfect Dark this year. Maybe a little bit of gameplay. It won't be much, but it will be something. Maybe it'll be cutscenes or how they're handling narrative, but anything about that property would definitely go a long way. And then I also think we see something from Avowed, be that some indication of how gameplay is going to work out. And then there's In Exile teasing that they're working on a new RPG, which a lot of people are saying could be like Fallout New Vegas 2 or something. That would be another big announcement.
So many RPGs.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be.
You think
New
no
Vegas
Fable
2?
Or no Fallout news? Sorry.
No, I think Fallout's on pause for a while. I think Starfield has kind of taken priority over the Fallout universe. Like I think they wanted 76 to be more successful than it is. Like it's made some comebacks and stuff, but that game is going to keep releasing whatever content for the indefinite future. And like, we're not going to see a full Fallout game probably until after Elder Scrolls. So it's like, it's a long time away. I mean, maybe they could pass off the franchise to somebody else to make like a sub game. You're right. I'd be surprised if it was New Vegas too, but
got it.
Wouldn't complain.
All right. So follow up. Do you think they clarify the exclusivity of Bethesda games during E3? And then second question, what do you think will be their biggest announcement in E3? Will it be something new or something that we already have heard about?
That's a good question. For something like Starfield, I think they would have to at this point, and that decision has probably been made
Mm-hmm.
already. I think it is pretty goofy to keep this facade up that like 90% of future Bethesda games are not going to be Xbox exclusive because you do not pay $7 billion for a studio to not make exclusive games for you. That's just not how it works. Existing deals are in place for some games and that will continue, but the major releases, I don't see a real reason that Microsoft would choose to share those with, especially Sony, maybe Nintendo, if they're on like friendly terms with the Nintendo. And Nintendo ports aren't going to come out till like 8 months later anyway, and like who cares? But now Sony, I don't see any reason they would do that for the most part. And biggest announcement of the show, I cannot tell you. I'm torn between something like that we haven't heard of at all, like a Gears 6, or I guess into Vegas 2, and something that's just like some massive Game Pass thing. Like Xbox Live is dead. There's only Game Pass now. It's cheaper, whatever. Like something on that scale, because they're pushing Game Pass so hard that like they never want to let up with like the huge Game Pass announcements in one form or another. So it may be something related to that. I'm not sure.
So realistic, Destin. I think they definitely clarify their stance on exclusivity. I think their biggest thing is going to be Halo Infinite multiplayer. And yeah, I think we see a lot of stuff that we already know about. I think we see a few exciting AAA things. And I think that's going to be the Xbox conference. And I think it's going to be a little bit more exciting than we're letting on right now. I think they have some cool.
They're going to be exciting.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, we spent like 20 minutes just talking about this one show, so I think it's definitely going to be the biggest show of this time period, most likely. So,
well, let's go to the competition. Sony has been, knocking it out of the park with their AAA's. They just had phenomenally reviewed Returnal come out. Ratchet and Clank is right around the corner. What do you think they have planned for this E3 window? We know they're not going to be at E3, but of course they'll probably do something. Will they? What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, they will. I mean, they'll call it whatever Sony show thing, but before the people in the comments tell us that Sony's not at E3, like we know that.
Yeah.
They have ditched E3 for a while now, and E3 is like barely a thing this year because of how it's being structured. Sony, they have a lot of potential things that they could be showing. Like we know, I mean, we'll see if Horizon Forbidden West does actually make it up this fall. That is supposed to be their big flagship game, so we should see a lot of stuff from that ahead of that release. It's probably time to see more about God of War 2 in some capacity. They said that was going to be 2021, like a year or two ago, but obviously that's not happening. Like no one believed that even when they announced it. So an updated window for that would be good, along with some kind of additional like which gods are we killing this time, that kind of thing. And then there's just a lot of stuff that we know is like in the works but not really made explicit yet. You could, amazing, Spider-Man 2, Ghost of Tsushima 2, whatever Naughty Dog's next thing is, be that Last of Us multiplayer factions thing, or Uncharted 5, or this weird idea of a Last of Us remaster again. I don't know how exciting that would be, but anything else would be. But like obviously Sony has a million ongoing series they can pull from. And also they have a schedule of actual releases that started when the console launched and continues every 3 months or so, where a new really good game is coming out. So if they can kind of keep laying out the schedule of when these huge games are going to hit, that is already kind of a one-up on Microsoft, because that is not a thing Microsoft has done yet and is not really going to do in the entire first year of the console. So it's, even if they're not have the splashiest headlines and things, and they're not buying studios for $7 billion, obviously they're still in a very good place.
Yeah, I'll say this about Sony, and you hit the nail on the head. They have a great schedule of upcoming titles that we know about and that we're excited about, because often they're sequels. You're talking about Horizon and Ragnarok, which are, well, Ragnarok's supposed to be 2021. I don't think that happens. I think that gets delayed almost assuredly. I think Horizon does manage to retain the 2021 launch window. I believe that was, am I right on that, Paul? Horizon?
Yeah, it's It's supposed to be this holiday, and they on their whatever investor call recently they confirmed that they did not confirm Ragnarok, but they did confirm Horizon Forbidden West.
Yeah, so Horizon's probably their big game this year, and then Q1 maybe is Ragnarok or Q2. I don't think that slips all the way to next winter.
Which is I do. I absolutely do.
You think a whole year?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Why do you keep thinking games are going to come out earlier than later? Like you know this industry. You know the safe bet is always to guess.
Ragnarok was teased as a 2021 title. They put a date on it. I think it slips a quarter or two because they were probably need to offset the time when they had to adjust to work from home and everything, right? So I think 2 quarters is reasonable. However, if their whole slate of planning does need to move, I could see a winner. But I'm going to stick to probably 2 quarters.
We need to bet something on this because like I will bet you the earliest is holiday 2022.
Well, let's see. But we agree there's no way it's 2021, right?
Oh yeah. I didn't believe that from day one. So
do you think it'll be earlier? So like, will it release by April of 2022?
No.
May, June,
July, definitely not.
Will it release by August?
I'll give you like September. September is the absolute earliest. Late August maybe, but yeah.
Well, okay.
At that point, you would want it to be their big holiday game because what other big holiday game are they going to have if not God of War? I mean, I guess they could announce something, but
we have a few things that we know about. We know Forspoken is in the works. We know that Final Fantasy 16 is in the works, and those could be sooner rather than later. They have a lot of stuff going on that's really, really exciting for the PS5 platform. And, the Schreier report does say that they are remastering the original Last of Us, which would be a really, really good sort of Q1 title. So that's why I'm saying Q2. Now, I don't know the exact window of when Q2 is, but when I start talking about the months with you, I do think it makes a lot of sense for Ragnarok to hit in next year, September, because that gives them, like, they're going to be totally forgiven for that. No one's going to hold them launching Ragnarok in 2022 because all they've shown is a logo. But I do think we see that clarification at E3, and I do think we see a substantial chunk of Ragnarok. And I think they're further along than you give them credit for. They were targeting 2021, and now... They
might be further along. I just think that everyone's in kind of like taking no prisoners, take no risks phase of like launching things like perfect, and they're going to delay it 6 months if they have to, just because that's just where I think everyone's at right now, especially Sony, and like they already kind of do that with their super polished first party games.
So they've been very clear. They have 25 exclusives in the works, and you don't think they're talking about these are new things, right? So what do you think's going to happen there? Do you think we hear about a few of those this E3? I think that I have 2 predictions about games that we hear from. There's a franchise we haven't heard from for a long time. Wishful thinking. I think we hear something about a Killzone game, but I don't know how that would even work, because isn't that team working on Horizon?
Killzone is Guerrilla. That's Horizon. Yeah.
No, that's not going to happen. Damn.
Why would they go back to Killzone?
I just like Killzone. Because there's all these tweets coming out right now looking back at Killzone 2. And I was like, oh, yeah, that game was really
I just remember Killzone as like the kind of okay shooter that launched with all the PlayStation consoles every time. And then
way to kill my hype about everything today, Paul. Thanks a lot.
You killed your own hype when you thought about that for 2 seconds.
Like, wait, no, that's not
good. All right, what's the second one?
The second one was this rumored Omen title, which would be a Legacy of Kain title. I do think that launches, and I just feel like that's a Sony game. So I would imagine because it's so narrative focused that it would launch on the PlayStation 5 platform.
I'm not gonna dunk on that one. So
do you have any predictions? No, feel free to dunk on it.
I think no, I think that's fine. I think they're gonna say something about Last of Us Factions. I think that might be here. That could be here this fall potentially. Like, I don't know how that game is going to work. Like, I know it's standalone, but like it could be free to play, like that kind of thing, like with microtransactions or whatever. That seems like something they were kind of building immediately after Last of Us. I don't know if they're going to do Last of Us 2 DLC. I hadn't heard anything about that, like they did with the first game with the standalone. But they could announce something like that too. Past that, I don't know. I don't know if I have too many more predictions, because like so many of these studios have kind of moved on to these more established franchises. Like, Spider-Man 2 is coming, Ghost of Tsushima is coming. It's just, will they announce that now or later? Like, they might announce some of them now. I don't think they would have a ton to show from like those two specifically at this point. I heard something about Sunset Overdrive, where I thought Sony has the license to Sunset Overdrive now.
The company that made it, so
right. I know that, but I don't know. That would be kind of weird if that came back, but I really love that game, so I wouldn't be opposed to it. But that would be kind of out of nowhere.
It's very popular, so I mean that would be really, really cool. Yeah, so
was it very popular?
Well, it's popular amongst those people who played it.
Yeah, it's like a cult hit. Yeah.
So I think Sony gets two cool new things. And the reason I say less than I said for Xbox is because they already have so many cool things to work with, right? And that are probably pretty far along in development. So they could show Ragnarok gameplay, they could show Horizon gameplay, and they're already going to be like the talk of the town. If they have two more mega hits, along with like anything else about Forspoken and anything else about Final Fantasy 16, like they already got a banger of a show, right? They don't have to pull as many levers to make it work. I think Xbox has more to prove this E3, which is why they're aligning with E3 than Sony does. That's why Sony's like, well, we can just do sort of whatever we want for this show because it's an easy win.
That's one thing we skipped over this, but like that's one thing I want to see out of Xbox is like something resembling a timeline roadmap. Yeah. Like I know dates move and stuff, but like past Halo Infinite, we pretty much have no idea when anything is coming, whether it's like a year from now or like 6 years from now. Like we really have no idea in any sense. You know, like Marvel maps out their movies for the next 6 years or 7 years or something, like something just generally like that, because you know, at this point, Sony just is releasing something every quarter, every 6 months, whereas Microsoft has not really released anything major yet. And after Infinite, we have no idea what they're going to do. So that's something I would like to see from them, whereas we kind of assume that will happen with Sony.
No, that's a really good point, Paul, because largely the conversation was Xbox doesn't have any exclusives, and you still hear that a lot. But everybody knows like the Bethesda games are going exclusive now, so that conversation is going to die. But what's going to be but what I've been seeing lately is there are no exclusives on Xbox, which isn't true. But if they were to say, here's what we have planned for the next 5 years, that conversation dies. You know,
well, it dies because it depends when the first ones.
Yeah. So like
get here, but
that conversation will be a lot easier to combat with online discourse, of course, and it'll get people more excited about their brands. And like I said, Sony already has. Like I just listed 4 very easy things that they could do, and just basically rock E3. So you know, yeah. Moving on, Paul. I know you had a long day. Let's talk Nintendo. What do you think we're going to see from Nintendo?
Well, the big guess is it finally time to see Breath of the Wild 2 in any meaningful capacity, which it should be if that game is remotely as far along as it should be at this point. And because they're just basing it off of a lot of the old Breath of the Wild stuff, it's not like they had to remake some entirely new engine and do all this stuff. And like, well, I'm sure it will be upgraded. I don't know why they wouldn't start showing stuff like that. I do not think they're going to show Metroid. I think they had to restart that project, and Nintendo is not really the type of company to show something that is not baked yet, and I would not imagine that is baked yet. I think Nintendo is one of the only companies we could talk about hardware. This could be the time to debut the Switch Pro. I kind of don't think they would do that at E3 because they usually just have their own separate, like, here's a direct about the Nintendo Switch Pro or something. So that might be before or after that. But like the Switch is getting pretty old, and like obviously it's still selling really well, but it is also clearly time for some sort of hardware refresh. And we have heard many rumors and leaks about what that might entail, whether it's 4K display on the TV and a slightly better screen. I don't know, all that stuff. But this seems like this would be around the time to announce that, and that could be out for this holiday. I would not rule that out as something that could be here for this fall.
That's a good point about hardware. I totally slipped my mind, and I think they tie that to Breath of the Wild 2. I think Breath of the Wild 2 is we get a launch window, at least like holiday 2022, and then they. either announce new hardware at E3 or they wait until a Nintendo Direct and then announce that it's launching at that same time. And then the other title that we just haven't heard a peep about is Metroid. What is happening with that game? Like they announced it and then just silence for 2 years. It's been like what, 2 years? I don't even know.
Well, no, well, they announced it, and then they announced that it was bad, and they were starting over.
Yeah.
And
So
so that's the last we've heard from it, which is not exactly
inspiring.
that promising. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be curious about a new Mario Kart at this point. Like, I know Mario Kart 8, like, they just pretty much sold everything that was on the Wii U on the Switch, and it sold way more copies because it's a Switch. But, like, I feel like it's probably time for an actually new Mario Kart game, which would almost certainly become one of the best-selling games on the Switch, because Mario Kart always is, like, over everything, over Zelda, over pretty much everything. So I think it might be time for that. And I don't know, there's so many franchises they have. It's like kind of taking a pick from a deck of cards, like in terms of like, oh, it's Kirby time, or like it's Yoshi time, or whatever it is. So I guess we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. I have no idea what to expect from Nintendo. It could be Metopia. It could be a new Fire Emblem. They're kind of a wild card in the whole thing, but whatever they do, I'm sure it'll sell like hotcakes. Because their old console, as you put it, is still selling like better than anything else.
It was the perfect thing for the pandemic, especially. Yeah.
Yeah, and like another Animal Crossing would just dominate the market again. So we'll see. And then moving on from Nintendo, anything else like EA? Man, they have some mega franchises. There's the Star Wars remake rumor from BioWare. Dragon Age is at BioWare. The new Mass Effect. They're just knocking it out of the park with Legendary Edition right now. We got Ubisoft, who has tons of franchises. There's that free-to-play story. Square, are we going to hear about the Black Panther DLC for Avengers again?
That was the first thing I thought of.
Final Fantasy 16.
Outriders DLC.
Yeah, Outriders DLC. There's just those three, and then I'll pose the last question for you. You know what it is, but what do you think about anything else about the mega companies?
Oh, all of those. I think now would be a good time to talk about the new Mass Effect, right on the heels of everybody getting really into Mass Effect again and all those warm nostalgia feelings coming back. So we know it's in the same galaxy this time. We know, I think Liara is coming back and she's older now or whatever. So it would be nice to get a glimpse of what they're thinking for that. Dragon Age 4 continues to perplex the living hell out of me, because like, there's like every time they show it, it's like concept art and like stick frame animations, which like, shouldn't they be further than that? So like, that seems like that should be, time to actually show some things from that, unless they are much further behind than we thought. Ubisoft, I would love to know if they're still making Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Oh yeah.
If that's still a thing or not. I'm sure there's going to be some sort of, take your pick from their annual franchises, or that used to be annual, tease at the next Assassin's Creed setting, next Far Cry. Well, no, Far Cry, the other one still has to come out, so that's probably too soon. But
what do you think?
No, everyone predicts Splinter Cell every year, and it never happens. So we'll get more of a look at this Division Heartland thing. It's in the closed alpha, which is leaked all over the place, but I'm sure they'll like actually show it off. And or the other companies, Square Enix. I mean, obviously, I would like to see actual content from the Avengers Black Panther DLC. Outriders has been hinting that they are going to, quote, expand Outriders. So that implies some sort of DLC or expansion for Outriders. These are games I care about, and probably not the games most Square Enix fans care about, but those are things I would be looking for, certainly. Those are both very, very struggling looters at this point, but both ones that are not like throwing in the towel. Avengers made it very clear that they are going to try and do all this stuff for at least this year. If the Black Panther expansion does not drive sales or microtransactions or whatever it's supposed to drive, they might just kill it after that. But that's why Black Panther's really got to work. So we'll see.
Yeah. So for me, EA, I'll try and do this as fast as I can. I don't think we see a new Mass Effect. I think Legendary Edition is the talk of the town, and they want that to continue that way. They're pretty methodical about their PR, and smart about it, to be honest. So I think the focus is Dragon Age and the rumored Star Wars remaster, Star Wars, The Old Republic. I think it's The Old Republic was the Knights of the Old Republic.
Knights of the Old Republic is the Old Republic's MMO.
And yeah. So anyway, I think we hear about that over on Ubisoft land. I think if we don't hear about Splinter Cell, we just never hear about that franchise again, and it's just done. Because I give up on being hopeful for it at this point. It's been too long, and there's no reason to let that franchise die. It's a popular franchise, and it makes no sense to me. So what does that leave with them? We could see something new about a Far Cry game. You know, we have Far Cry around the corner, and you brought up Division Heartland. They just got some of the Star Wars licenses also over at Ubisoft, so maybe we hear anything
Yeah, I was
about
going to
that.
say the Division or the Massive is making a Star Wars game, and they're allegedly still making this Avatar game. I'd love to see anything from that because they're talking about that for a couple of years. But
Yeah, I don't know what Ubisoft could show me, honestly, to wow me beyond a Splinter Cell game, because most of the stuff is fairly predictable. If they actually show the Star Wars game, which I do not think will happen,
no,
I think that would be a big hit for them. But I don't know. I think they're going to go to a lot of their staples, and a lot of their games are going to be free to play because they've made that commitment and they've made that announcement now. So I think they're setting us up to say, well, that's what we're going to show at E3. So just be ready for it. Square, all they have to do is show you Final Fantasy 16 again, and or Final Fantasy 14 coming to Xbox would be, something fans have asked for years. If they're able to finally get that deal underway, and all the Final Fantasy games are on Xbox Game Pass or have been recently, so the partnership with Xbox has actually been surprisingly robust lately. With Final Fantasy X being one of the games on Game Pass right now, and all these Square titles constantly coming to that platform. It's a really
14 on Game Pass could be like one of the big Xbox show announcements. Like
that whoa, I didn't even think of that. That would be mega news for sure. And then the last question, Paul, is Destiny fans, I have to ask you, Bungie is working on a new IP. Do we see it this E3? Do we see anything about it? And which stage is it on?
Probably Xbox. I mean, if Bungie is anywhere, I would assume it would be on the Xbox stage because they have been doing deals with them lately, and they had Beyond Light on Game Pass and all this stuff there. I would be a little surprised if we saw anything but like an official announce of maybe the title and what type of game it is. They said, I think, before 2024, so we are still supposedly in pretty like early stages of what. I mean, they're developing a couple games, but I think the main one that everyone is thinking of is Matter, this whatever the hell that is game that is probably going to be multiplayer, probably PvP focused, maybe. The big theory is that Crucible sucks because they're making a dedicated PvP game with most of their PvP team. So I don't know if they will show anything literally from Destiny because will just barely be into the new season. So and there's no fall expansion for them to tease, which they would normally do at E3, but that has been delayed until early next year. So I don't know. They could do a Witch Queen tease to some degree, but I don't know. I feel like Bungie's not really going to have a big presence, honestly.
I actually agree with you. I do think we see their new game. I think they're done with platform exclusives. So it would probably be like a partnership for the reveal. Yeah. So it would be on Xbox's stage, but it's going to come to everything, basically. And then beyond that, for Bungie, I agree. But I do think we do see a substantial Destiny trailer, like a minute-long trailer or something on probably both stages, where, yeah, they tease, like you said, one of the upcoming timeline for their franchise. Because I would have to imagine we also see that for a game like Warframe, which has this long story fan base that would be showing off just like a little sizzler or something. They just want. I mean,
they could reveal they could reveal like, oh, Witch Queen is in Old Chicago or something, and like show a little bit of Old Chicago, and not really like get into the story, because obviously the next couple seasons of Destiny are going to be very important to the events leading up to the Witch Queen, and you don't want to spoil anything. But even that kind of reveal would obviously drive the Destiny fan base nuts, like just knowing that, or a new subclass or something. Things that wouldn't necessarily ruin something, but still get people hyped for a year from now or whatever it's going to be, or 9 months. So
it could be as simple as just the exotic trailer for Vex Mythoclast or something, because they did that for
that would be very simple. And it's in 2 days, so I don't know if they do the exotic trailer for Vex Mythoclast at E3 3 weeks later.
Well, that could be the start of the quest in 2 days. Who knows?
I don't buy it. It's gonna be a drop. It's gonna be a drop.
All right, Paul, thank you so much. Those are our E3 predictions. Some of them are probably really bad, mostly mine. Paul's are probably all great, but this show is to the death. So let's activate my fatality.
Finish him. Fatality. Outstanding.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Go check out Paul's channel. He does some really, really great Destiny content, and he's always talking about the industry. He writes a lot over at Forbes, and I really, really like his stuff. I'm sorry I murdered him. Also, you can check out this channel. Thank you so much for watching. You can subscribe. Be sure to hit that bell. And if you want to become a member, you can become a member by clicking that join button. All right, that's it for this episode. I'll see you for the next one. Bye for now, everybody.